All right, welcome to another lecture with Professor Dennis. We're going to be looking at elements of fiction, elements of a story specifically. For most of you, this is going to be a review. Let's start, as always, with a screen share. And let me get this up nice and big for you. So we're looking at setting, characters, plot, and conflict. Just a note, this is really terminology that you should be using as you're doing discussion posts and papers. So that's the purpose for this lecture as a refresher. So the elements of a story include the setting, time and place. It's where the story is taking place. It can create an atmosphere. The characters, which are the people, the animals, or the creatures within the story. The plot would be the series of events that make up the story. And then the conflict would be the problem or struggle between two people, things, or ideas. So again, the setting, it's going to describe where and when the story takes place. It helps to build a background and create images in the mind. And it can set the tone or the mood of the story. Details can include the time of day, time of year, time of history, the scenery, the weather, and even the location. So taking a look at this, which is better? The castle was beside the water, or the waves crashed loudly against the seashore, the fog lifted lightly, and the medieval castle came into view. It was a beautiful sight. The fog brushed my face, and I could smell the smoke from the fire in the distance and taste the sea salt on my lips. I don't know about you, but I prefer the second one. Next, the protagonist, the good guy. So here we have lots of examples of different protagonists in pop culture. Really, it's one of your main character. It is your main character. It is your good guy. It's the one you want to root for. Your antagonist would be the bad guy or force. And yeah, we got a few of those flipping through.
You knew the power of the dark side.
So another important character, and you'll notice that one of these isn't even an actual talking person. It's a dinosaur. That's still an antagonist. It's still a character. Characterization. So this is the way in which an author shows the personality of a character, and it's a technique writers use to make the characters come to life. Characters are people or animals in the story, and a writer can tell you directly about the character or indirectly about the character. So direct characterization tells the reader the personality of the character. And it's an observation to the reader, and it spells it right out. An example of this would be the patient boy, the quiet girl, well-behaved. These are direct characterizations. Your indirect characterizations shows things that reveal the personality of the character. It's going to reveal things through their speech, their thoughts, the effect they have on others, their actions, their looks. An example of this, the boy sat next to his sister as she poked him and teased him. He did not react. He carefully picked up her doll from the floor and placed it on her lap, saying gently, "Here you go. Why don't you play with your doll?" We see actions. We have dialogue. We have inactions even. Sister's poking him and teasing him, and he doesn't really react to that. And so all of this tells you what kind of a character it is. So when you're looking for indirect characterization, you want to think about what does the character say? How does the character speak? What's revealed through the character's private thoughts and feelings? Think about some more recent pieces that have come out on TV. One of my favorite is Resident Alien, and you've got what he's saying up front to everybody else, but then you've got that internal monologue. If you watch Young Sheldon, you'll have the same thing where Sheldon is having all these actions and reactions to the world around him. However, you've got the internal monologue that shows something different. What's the character's effect on others? How do other characters feel or behave in reaction to the character? What does the character do? How does he or she behave? What does the character look like? Dress like? Clothing really can tell you a lot about an individual. So factors in analyzing characters. You want to look at their physical appearance, their personality and character traits, their background and personal history, motivation, so why do they act the way they do, relationships, conflict or struggles, does a character change? What do they think and feel? And these are really things that you can take notes on in relation to any story or poem or novel or drama that we are exploring this term, so that you have them when you go to do your analysis with literary theory. And then, of course, how do others feel about them? The character motivation. So this is the driving force behind why the character does what they do. It's a reason for their actions. What does the main character want more than anything else? Well, what do the second characters want more than anything else? What potential conflicts or struggles might exist between these characters because of their different desires? And here we have our basic plot structure or elements of a plot. The backgrounds, the mood and conditions existing between the beginning of the story and the setting, the main characters and their positions and circumstances and relationships to one another are established. The exciting force or initial conflict is introduced and sometimes called the narrative hook. This begins in the conflict that continues throughout the story. Then you have our rising action, the series of events, conflicts, and crises throughout the story that lead up to the climax, providing the progressive intensity and complicating that conflict. The climax is the turning point of the story. A crucial event takes place from this point forward, and the protagonist moves toward his inevitable end. The event may be either an action or a mental decision that the protagonist makes. The falling action is the events that occur from the time of the climax to the end of the story. And the main character may encounter more conflict in this part, but the end is inevitable. The resolution, this is the tying up of loose ends and all the threads in the story. The conclusion. The hero or character either emerges triumphant or is defeated at this point. Are different types of conflict? Well, you've got person versus nature, person versus man, person versus society, person versus self, person versus supernatural, and person versus machine or technology. And these conflicts are really the forces that create that plot line. It's the conflict that takes place, and it isn't always bad. Sometimes it helps to create change. But it is that struggle between two forces in a story. Without conflict, there's no plot. And a conflict can be either internal or external. So an internal conflict is where the struggle is within the character's own mind or heart, and the external conflict takes place outside of the character. So it could be between two characters, could be between the character and nature, the character and technology, anything that is separate from the character. I hope that you found this helpful in introducing you to the terminology that I expect you to be using all throughout this term as you describe anything that has to do with the storyline. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please do not hesitate to reach out and let me know. Thanks so much.